You are listening to Whistle Radio. We're in the Hockey Talk studios, and I'm your host, Mike Humphreys, on Hockey Talk, CIWS 102.7 Whistle Radio. Or check us out on the internet at whistleradio.ca, the home and the voice of your Stouffville Spirit Junior A Hockey Club. Our special guest back for a second appearance, and we very much appreciate his time. A son, father, husband, pro hockey player. He played in the 1967 championship Toronto. I'm not having a very good morning here, Bob. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
Played for the Toronto Maple Leafs Stanley Cup champions in 1967. The one, the only, Mr. Bobby Baun. How are you doing?
Just great, Michael.
Okay.
It's good to see you.
I apologize for that bumbled introduction, but we can probably fix that up in the studios maybe.
That's all right.
So we were talking about, we've gone through your early parts of playing hockey in Toronto and just kind of started getting into talking a bit about the Marlies, and we're talking about hockey sticks and some skates and equipment. I didn't know if you wanted to kind of elaborate a little bit more on the equipment in comparison to today's stuff.
Well, I think the equipment today, there's an evolution in that, and I think it's going to continue. And I think everybody's well aware that a lot of things have to change. And I still believe the helmets aren't as good as they should be, and one of the reasons is you're not hearing properly or seeing properly. Mm-hmm. So your peripheral's taken out, and that's the biggest concern I have is if I was a hockey player, if I can't hear properly and don't know where people are around me, mm-hmm. and have my I love that peripheral. If you don't have that wide lenses,
yeah,
how do you really see the ice? And some of the guys' eyes are better than others people's eyes, and that's normal.
Yeah.
And the guys that don't have that big peripheral, they're going to have problems, mm-hmm. and they get blindsided easy, and that to me is where the problems are, and you're just not going to straighten that out, and the person might be good enough, but if he doesn't catch those things with his senses, yeah, you're done. It's like walking out in a bush somewhere and you don't hear what's going on in the bush. A lot of people don't hear. Or if you don't hear, say, a duck's flying by, if you're duck hunting, if you don't hear the wings before you see, then you're going to have trouble. I've got bad hearing now, and Grace, I'm always way behind the duck again. So your shooting's not going to be as good.
Yeah.
And when you rely on your eyes, it's the same thing. If you have bad eyes like Horton had, you wonder he even played the game. Right? He couldn't see from here to there. And whatever he did see was sort of glazed anyways. It was dreadful for Tim. And, so I'd always wonder how he did so well, but it was his instincts and that he went on, and so we're seeing that evolution of change coming, and when I look at these hockey players and watch their eye-hand coordination, and I get back to Gordy, when I played in Detroit, I spent 2.5 years with him, and we used to go up to their cottage. Well, that's a big son of a gun. He could water ski. He could do the slalom and jump. We had a 6-foot jump there. They had 5 ski boats that just do the slalom courses and jumping, and we'd start at 5:30 in the morning, and he'd swim first. Then we'd have trail bikes. They had 20 trail bikes, and each one of us would have a youngster on the back of us, and he could pop wheelies and do 360s with his bike, and all sorts of things that
takes
a little coordination and a good rider to do. But it was so easy for him. Baseball, Al Kaline and Cash and all those guys. Go away, Gordy. You drive us nuts.
Yeah.
You can hit the ball better than we can, So, those things. He played tiddlywinks. If you want to go fishing, And I was listening to Orr talk a couple of weeks ago, and and Bobby, was a fly fisherman, and he was talking about fly fishing with Ted Williams. Well, Ted Williams was the same way. He could read the seams and the spin of the ball. So when athletes are that good, mm-hmm. that they can visualize and see and hear and all
do a
the
wide
things,
range.
You got a big advantage over everybody. I don't care what you say, and when you know the game as well as they know the game, that's a big advantage.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, that's fascinating. Well, I guess a lot of times in the summer months, you guys would, even though you played hockey together, from through the Leafs and stuff like that. Yeah. Now, you were traded down to, I guess, in the expansion, you got traded down to California.
Well, I went. That's the first draft we had, if you remember.
I don't know. I was a youngster, unfortunately.
Okay, well, that was the, and that's the first year of the Players Association.
Okay.
So there was a big. Everything was into a big change, and we had, as players, had voted in Bobby Pulford to be the head of the Players Association, and Punch blew him out like they did in the old days 10 years before that, when Teddy Lindsay and all those guys got blown away from their teams. So anyways, we thought being in California, I'd be a good choice. So I became the president of the Players Association, the first president.
Okay.
And we thought Bert Olmsted would be all right with it, but I knew Bert wasn't going to be all right, because he had already told me. He says, "You son of a bee, don't come back being the president of the Players Association." And so I arrived back in California, and I was the head of the Players Association. So anyways, he's fined me $1,000 a day. And the reason I'm telling you it's a great story, because I hadn't signed my contract, and I signed one of my biggest contracts ever. And so I hadn't signed my contract, and he wouldn't sign it, and he was still fining me $1,000 a day. Well, the day of the opening game in Oakland, and all the dignitaries were coming, I said to Sally, "Get 7 plane tickets, we're going home today." So we're going out to the airport, and Bert's following me in his car. I finally signed my contract on the trunk of his car and made the opening game. And he rescinded all the fines. So
I was going to say, did you add that to your contract?
Yeah, no. So anyways, but there was a lot of pressure on
for the day. I'm sure it was huge.
For that day, or for the time period of.
Now, what would the contract have been worth, Bob, if you don't mind?
That was around $87,000 at that time.
Wow.
Which was, it came from Toronto at 22.5 or something, and they helped buy us a house out there, and because we said we weren't going to move out there and live like gypsies, and that's what that time period. Most of the guys, they'd come with their wives have a suitcase, and the one child would have a suitcase, and the husband would have a suitcase, and that was their worldly goods that they took to Toronto, live in a little apartment for the winter,
right, and
then head back home to Saskatchewan or Northern Ontario and live in their house, and that was the ritual. Well, that's not a nice life.
No.
And so that a lot of changes started to come,
right,
and that was part of the reasoning, and it had to change,
mm-hmm.
And baseball, they're still doing it today. The baseball players, I don't know how they do it.
Mm-hmm.
And the hockey players, I suspect some of them are making more moves now. I don't know, but I know the kids that play in Toronto are buying big homes and stuff like that. But anyways, that was the changes of that time period, and I think, when you watch it's hard to relate now to the game because of all the money that these guys are making.
Yes.
Even though we played the game, I don't relate to making $8 or $10 million.
No.
If I put a value on where I stood, and that's how I got into what happened to me in Toronto was Punch caught a bunch of kids outside my room in Peterborough, and they asked them what are they doing there. And they said, "Oh, we're waiting to talk to Mr. Baun about our contracts." So Punch comes roaring into my room and says, "What the hell do you think you're doing?" And I said, "I'm just saving these lambs from going to slaughter."
So he was a pretty tough cookie, wasn't he?
Oh, Punch was a good manager. He was good. I say, for again the time periods I could speak hours about, Stafford and Harold and all that. I haven't even mentioned them, and it's a story in itself. And I was like a son to both those gentlemen, and I say gentlemen, and they were. Oh, Con, I was like a son to Con, Stafford, and Harold, and their wives. They all thought I was another son, But that was a wonderful experience, when I grew up. And I cared about them. I worked for all of them, whether it was at their homes or, just shoveling snow, because my mom and dad wouldn't let me just play hockey. I had to work too, so I didn't just play around. So I had my own construction company by the time I was 19 years old. So,
right.
So it was I didn't know anything else but work, and that's what it was about. So, but Punch, at when the changes started was after 1964, and the Eagles got ahead, and Punch wasn't getting paid what he probably should have got paid. Harold and Stafford weren't paying attention to what they were doing. They were taking, abusing the corporation.
Yeah.
Was it abusing the corporation? God knows that one, but that was where things started getting off track.
Yes.
And that's when Punch, he went a different way. He started siphoning players off into to Rochester, New York, when the expansion was going to come.
Yes.
And they ended up selling that club to Vancouver for a couple $1 million. Well, that's how they got their money back.
Yeah.
For coaching.
Yeah.
And then everything started changing more after that.
Yeah.
So it was that time was a fascinating time to live. All kinds of stories.
Yeah.
And listening to Bobby's story about, when Eagleson was wearing the 3 hats.
Yeah.
And Al was our best friend, I just saw him this spring to have a chat with him. And I hadn't chatted with him from the time he went to jail. And I said, if you're guilty, then you should apologize to your friends. At least apologize.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he'll ever do that.
Yeah.
That's very difficult for a person like Al.
Yeah.
But anyways, he looked good, and I felt better about talking to him.
Yeah.
This last 3 months. So.
Well, it's interesting. I did meet Mr. Ballard once, just in an airport, and said hello. That was about it. But behind the scenes, he was an extremely generous man.
Oh,
I think a lot more than people realize.
Well, they all do. Unless you got to know them, and even his daughter now. I've been involved with this new hospital, Bridgepoint Hospital down at the old Riverdale Hospital.
Yes.
And the daughter and gave the roof garden to the hospital, and it's the head of the town.
Yeah.
And they did it beautiful, and that's where the patients love to go and sit up there on this beautiful roof garden at that hospital. But
Yeah.
Elizabeth Ballard, that was part of her. I think she donated something like $2 million
Wow.
to the hospital. So,
Wow.
but anyways, all the Smythes and the Ballards were always have a fond memory in my heart, and very, very, very lucky. You know, when you look at the whole, if you look at your life and take it and break it down, you're pretty damn fortunate. You make mistakes, and that if people say they don't make mistakes, you know, they haven't lived life.
No.
And anybody that you know, and in order to try and do something, if you don't go out, you know, it's always there's going to be problems wherever you want to go, and
Yeah.
whatever you want to do. Even if you want to be the best hockey player, if you want to be the best whatever, you got to go through the problems to understand it, and I think that's the key, that most people just get frightened when they do meet adversity, and that's I think the 2 or 3 things in life. If you don't go through all those things, that you don't understand. If you know, it's like watching JFK the last few days in remembrance, or for remembrance of our people who gave their lives during the Second World War.
Yes.
You know, it's amazing, and they're the things that, you know, when you see hockey, and everybody thinks of their little Johnny and little Mary that are starting to excel in whatever, and they wish all these things for them. Well, you don't wish their lives away. You let them live their lives and give them some direction, but you can't be frightened for them all the time.
No.
That something's gonna happen.
That's a good way to put it, Bob. Anybody that's listening and knows me knows I'm very opinionated about what we have to do in today's society. Kids are getting softer because people are protecting their kids too much, not allowing them to go out, as I refer to it, just to skin their knee, for that matter.
That's right.
And then we have to call an ambulance in. No, he's got a skinned knee. He'll be okay, or she'll be okay. So thank you for bringing that forward. That's great. So wow, you've had, and I know we could go on and on about many things, but a couple of quick questions for you. Did you always know you were going to make it in the NHL when you were like a late teen?
It was never a doubt in my mind from the time I went from grade 5 on.
Yeah.
I for whatever reason, it was glued in that brain.
Yeah.
And as my mom and dad said, "You're one stubborn son of a bitch." And
I'm sure they were proud of you at the end of it all.
Well, no, I think so. And you know, my dad finally told me I was a hockey player the day before he passed away, and that was pretty special when I think about it after. And
what year was that, Bob?
That was in 1972,
Okay.
And my whole life changed at that time, and that's when we bought the farm up near Stouffville in Claremont,
Right.
In '67, but in '72 we had just moved into a new house that we built, and my dad came out to see this house, and he said, "Where the hell did you come from?" And this I built this lovely English country home, and it was a big house, and he of course couldn't understand this at all, and it took almost 3 years to build that house, but I love the farming, and I was in the automotive business, and I love that business too, but I love farming more. But anyways, when Dad died in September the 29th in '72, I broke my neck November the 8th, 72. I had to quit playing hockey. And my mom died in December the 16th in 72.
Wow.
And
That's a lot of
life change.
adjustments going on
Yeah.
for you. I'm sure you had a young family too.
No, and we had 5 children and 3 boys and 2 girls, and we're very fortunate, and they've been just terrific. So we've got 12 grandchildren now, so they're all at either just about all in university. So we're preaching that.
Yes. So you should.
Yeah. No.
So you
but
should.
I guess that when we wrote a book, Lowering the Boom, and the front caption, and I really still like it and believe in it, is dare to dream to be a somebody and not just a hockey player.
Yeah.
And I think everybody should have a dream.
For sure.
And I think, and try to do the best they can, and that's and keep people like that around you the same way. So. But I think that's that's sort of been my little song that I keep beeping around. But I still have a lot of fun, still have a lot of friends, and we were just up in the Franklin Club a few weeks ago, or not even a week ago, but we had a great evening there, and I met a couple of people I hadn't seen for 20-some years, and I just thought how nice it was to get back with them and talk.
Yeah. Well, Bob, thank you very much again. We're going to have you back once again. We're going to do another recording shortly.
Yep.
And everybody, you're listening to CIWS 102.7 Whistle Radio. And you can check us out on the internet at whistleradio.ca. And we're in conversation this afternoon, or this morning, I apologize, with Mr. Robert Baun. And he'll be back as a guest shortly. Thanks, Bob.
Thanks.